Welcome back, everybody, and yeah, today we're taking a look at a newly released physical edition from Eureka, and that is Three Monster Tales of Sci-Fi Terror. I love the new artwork that they've made for this edition, and yeah, as it says on the box, Three Monster Tales of Sci-Fi Terror, and yeah, so sci-fi horror films, and yeah. I enjoy all of them, to be honest, although there is one standout out of the three, as there is per usual with this kind of edition. And yeah, with this edition you can actually choose the artwork that you want on the front, because it has all three, the two on the back and one at the front to start with, but you can switch them around however you want. And yeah, the first of those is Manmade Monster from 1941. Sorry about the glare there, but yeah, really nice artwork on that. And yeah, it's directed by George Wagner, who also did The Wolfman, also from 1941. Clocked in at only 60 minutes long, and it's had a budget of $84,000, which is around 1.6 million in today's money, so not very much money back then. And yeah, stars Lionel Atwill, who was also in 5 of the Frankenstein monster films that Universal did in the 30s and 40s. It was also in The Mystery of the Wax Museum, which was one of the first films to try and deal with colour in film, although not much of it. I think there was only 2 colour grades in that film. And then it was also in the 1939 version of The Hound of the Baskervilles and The Devil is a Woman with Marlene Dietrich, which was a really rather solid film. And this also stars Lon Chaney Jr., who was also in The Wolfman, so same director, worked with the same director in the same year. And yeah, this film definitely started his career with Universal. And yeah, he was also in 3 of the 5 original Mummy films. The Ghost of Frankenstein, where he played Frankenstein's monster. He was in Son of Dracula, where he played Dracula. And he was also in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman and House of Dracula, where he reprised his Wolfman role. He was also in the Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, where he also reprised his Wolfman role. He was also in The Alligator People, The Haunted Palace, alongside Vincent Price. And he was in all 6 of the Inner Sanctum mystery films, which we also got from Eureka. I think you can see it just there, the green one. And he was also in the few non-horror roles I've seen him in the Defiant ones alongside Sidney Poitier and Tony Curtis. So yeah, really rather diverse actor, Lon Chaney, in a lot of ways. The fact that he can play different monsters and yeah, play in different roles, and to be in all 6 of those Inner Sanctum mystery films and really nail it is quite impressive as far as I was concerned. And yeah, this film concerns a mad scientist who turns a man into an electrically controlled monster to do his bidding. And yeah, even though it has quite a low budget and it's more than 80 years old, this was overall an enjoyable way to spend an hour, quite frankly. Now, sure, it isn't the best of its type. Certainly seen better hour-long science fiction horror films in the same vein as this, but with a good pair of leads and effective special effects, this was overall really rather a entertaining effort. It is also well paced. The plot, though predictable, is engrossing. There is a cute dog, which I'm not a particularly dog fan, but the dog in that was really rather entertaining. And yeah, the finale is quite fun. So yeah, not an overall amount to say about it, because it is only an hour long, but it cracks through that hour in no time at all. Starts off with a bus crash, and yeah, just is entertaining throughout most of that time. So yeah, solid 3 out of 5 film that. But yeah, like I said, there are better hour-long films. The Inner Sanctum mysteries, for instance, were usually around an hour long, and there were a couple in there that were better than Man-Made Monster, but still, overall, a solid effort and a good start to this release. And secondly, we have, let me just wrap this round, The Monolith Monsters from 1957. Now, I had already seen this before buying this release. I had found it via means, but yeah, really good film this is, from 1957, directed by John Sherwood, who also did The Creature Walks Among Us, which was only one of 3 films he directed outside of Monolith Monsters. He also did a western, so yeah, he only directed 3 films in a couple of years, which yeah, it's a bit of a shame, because this is a really cracking film. So it clocks in at 77 minutes long, so it's slightly longer than Man-Made Monster, but uses that extra runtime really rather nicely. And it stars Grant Williams, who was in The Incredible Shrinking Man. He was in the lead role, and he was also in The Leech Woman, which is an underrated kind of sci-fi horror film. Not particularly great, but not awful either. Also stars Les Tremayne, who was also in North by Northwest. He was in the narrator for Forbidden Planet, and he was also in the War of the Worlds, the Angry Red Planet, and the US version of King Kong vs. Godzilla. And yeah, this concerns rocks from a meteor which grow when in coming contact with water that threaten a sleepy southwestern desert community. And yeah, basically they grow really, really tall, fall down, and then grow from there and just keep moving forward as they fall down. And yeah, it's got really, really solid practical effects with it. But on the surface, I thought I knew what I was getting in with this science fiction film. But thankfully, this was more than just a cheap B movie. But that just has an interesting premise. There's a lot of B movies out there that have an interesting premise and then ultimately are not able to fulfill on that premise. This manages that and then some. And it also has really great miniatures. The characters are likeable, it's well paced, and it is genuinely engrossing throughout. It also has tension where necessary. The score is decent and it has a solid script. Now, sure, it has a lot of the usual science fiction tropes and it is hardly full of depth, but it is no less entertaining as a result of those flaws. So yeah, really enjoyable film, and yeah, it is my favourite of the three that we are going to look at today. So yeah, I really, really like, kind of unusual science fiction films that have, an unusual kind of antagonist. And even though obviously the Monolith Monsters themselves aren't living in the normal sense, they don't talk, they don't walk or anything like that, they are a menace. And yeah, the miniatures and the effects really do get that across really nicely. So yeah, solid film. And finally, from 1958, we have Monster on the Campus, which, yeah, second favourite out of the three, as it's directed by Jack Arnold, who also did two of the Creature films, Creature from the Black Lagoon and Revenge of the Creature. He also did The Incredible Shrinking Man, It Came from Outer Space, Tarantula, the rather underrated The Space Children, and the only non-sci-fi film I've seen from him, Man in the Shadow, but that starred Orson Welles, no less. And this also clocks in at 77 minutes long. Stars Arthur Franz, who was the lead in The Sniper, which was in the Columbia Noir number 3 box set, which was a really, really good one out of that box set. He was also in Invaders from Mars, which I'm not a particular fan of. I definitely prefer the 80s remake, as well as The Atomic Submarine and Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man, where he played the titular Invisible Man. Also stars Joanna Moore, who was in Touch of Evil, The Hindenburg, which is a rather underrated disaster film from the 70s, and Walk on the Wild Side. And finally, Judson Pratt, who I've only seen in Future World, which is an awful sequel to the rather great Westworld. And yeah, this is about a college paleontology professor who acquires a newly discovered specimen of a coelacanth, but while examining it, he's accidentally exposed to its blood and finds himself periodically turning into a murderous Neanderthal man. And yeah, not only does it affect him, but it also affects a fly, I think, or a mosquito or something or other that ends up growing to a prehistoric size. And yeah, that is a really rather fun bit as well. I'm not saying it's like massive, but it's definitely bigger than a normal fly. And yeah, I really wasn't expecting much from this. However, it not only managed to be entertaining, but it has decidedly more depth to it than is normal for a film of this type. The cast is also good. The finale is fun. It is well paced. It doesn't outstay its welcome. It's way more violent than I was expecting it to be for a 1950s B movie. The effects are decent, and I was overall engrossed by it for most of its running time. So yeah, Monster on Campus and Monolith Monsters both get 3.5 stars out of 5 each, and Manmade Monster gets 3 stars out of 5. And like I said, Monolith Monsters is my favourite out of these three, then Monster on the Campus, and then Manmade Monster. But overall, a really solid set. And I've been dying for these kind of films to have a physical release, to be honest, because there's not many 50s B movies that get a Blu-ray release, quite frankly. There's a huge amount of them that are out on rubbish DVD quality levels of releases, but not many get Blu-rays. We obviously have the likes of, Tarantula and them and stuff like that, but quite frankly, there are some more that we could definitely need. And it comes with a nice booklet as well. So that's Lon Chaney and Man-Made Monster. And there he is again. And yeah, it's got film credits for all 3 films. It's got a write-up by Craig Ian Mann called Unknown Horrors, revisiting 3 monster tales from Universal, viewing notes and the Blu-ray credits. And yeah, really like it, to be honest. It's got shots from the films, so that's Monster on the Campus. It's even got an original poster, which I like. I'd actually like that as a full thing, to be honest. And yeah, just goes through all of the films. Has shots from the films themselves. So those two shots are from the Manmade Monster. And then there's even a French poster of Monolith Monsters in there. Didn't think any American B movies got released in European countries, to be honest, but that's a nice surprise. And yeah, there's shots from Monolith Monsters. So there's the monoliths themselves. And there's another shot with some of the characters in it. And yeah, the Monster on the Campus wasn't the only kind of film of its type at the time. There was also a film called I Was a Teenage Werewolf, which I actually quite like as well. Although obviously Monster on the Campus isn't a werewolf. And there's a poster again for Monster on the Campus. Monster on the Campus was also released in the UK. There's a quad poster of it, which is nice to see as well. And there's shots from Monster on the Campus as well. So yeah, really nice booklet. I'm going to look forward to reading that, to be honest. Because yeah, I really do like reading up on films of that type. And then the discs themselves. Man-Made Monster and the Monolith Monsters are on their own disc together. On disc together, should I say. And yeah, Monster on the Campus is on a disc of its own, which is the only one that has actually anything from the film itself printed on it. So yeah, really nice release. Looking forward to this for a very long time. It's not actually supposed to be released until the 11th of April, but for some reason I got it I got it yesterday, so I got it 10 days early. So yeah, not quite sure why I got it as early as I did, but yeah, really enjoy these films. If you're into your B movies from the 40s or the 50s, then I do highly recommend this. Although, obviously, if you're not quite sure, then I would rent them physically if you can, or find them online somewhere. But yeah, still, as a fan of these kind of films, yeah, I adore this release, and it's either going to be one of my favourite releases of this year, quite frankly. But yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.